Hey everybody, Aaron Cowan, Sage Dynamics. This week's video we're going to be talking about home defense. Home defense is a huge, very, very exhaustive topic, both technically or tactically speaking, and legally speaking, because different states have different rules for how we're allowed to defend our homes, which is a totally different political and philosophical discussion. But just working under the premise of the best methods to defend our home, we've got some potential issues and some potential preconceived notions that might not be as beneficial as you think. There is people who have home defense plans, and then is that plan actually going to be effective? So that's what we're going to talk about. So right now, think about your home defense plan. Do you have one? If you have one, think about it. Really think about your plan. Now, ask yourself, what time of day or what situation does that plan apply to? Does it only apply to the bump in the night? Or does it also apply to the unexpected knock at the door at 2:30 in the afternoon, or the loud crash at 8:30 in the morning? I bring that up because time matters, because at different times of the day we're at different parts of the house, or we're not home at all, which brings up the two general different types of home crimes are burglary and then home invasion. Now burglary generally are attempted or performed when the burglar believes no one's home, because they don't really want to get involved in things. The home invasion is when they don't care, and they may actually want you to be home so they can get access to they can actually use you to drive you to the bank or to the ATM or what have you. So a burglary is when you might catch a burglar in the act. Maybe you thought you were asleep, maybe you thought he was super creepy, maybe you have a big house, maybe he was in the basement, the attic, whatever. Whereas a home invasion, they might boot the door at 10:30 in the morning and take everybody hostage. You can go on Live Lake YouTube. Everybody's seen some stories of where nanny cams caught like a babysitter or a single stay-at-home mom being assaulted. We've all read the stories about people defending themselves in those situations. Often they defended themselves in situations where they didn't really have a plan because they didn't expect it, which is fine. You don't want to live your life constantly expecting attack. But there are some just general things that you can do to better prepare yourself for that situation. When it comes to a home defense plan, the only thing that you can really plan for is how you're going to react to a situation, because you cannot predict in what condition the situation happens or when it happens. First things first, single, married, married with kids. 3 different categories. Single's pretty easy. You're by yourself. If the crash late at night scenario, if you hear a crash, it sounds like someone's in the house, you know where they're not. They're not in the room with you. So do you need to leave that room? Can you not dial 911 from the room you're in and wait? There are some advantages to this technique in that the bad guy has to come to you, which means you know at what time he's going to appear is when he appears. You don't have to try to clear your house by yourself. And I cannot underscore enough that it is physically impossible for you to clear a building by yourself, because every time you move to a different part of the house, you're giving up an environment. Now, if your house isn't built in a very linear fashion, like a shotgun or something like that, maybe a ranch style, where you can make it to one end of the house to the other end and be able to see everything at the same time, or you have an apartment, a loft, something like that, I mean, yeah, it's physically possible to, for the most part, clear by yourself, but it's not prudent. There are far too many angles to watch by yourself when you don't have to. Now, you can search a house by yourself, but you certainly can't clear it. You can't call it clear. So I know that's a little pedantic, but there is a difference in terms between searching and clearing. So I don't like when people, and again, pedantic, I don't know when people say, oh, I'm going to clear my house by myself. No, you're not. You can't. It's impossible. You can search it by yourself, though. And there is a difference in techniques that are applied as well, which we're going to get into in another video. This video is just about some basic home defense advice. So if I'm by myself, I don't need to leave the room. There's nothing driving me to leave the room. If I have a girlfriend or a wife or we don't have any kids, she's in the room with me, I don't have to leave the room. Those are two situations where you can set up a sight picture ambush on that door, or low ready or high port or whatever you're going to do. Maybe give out a verbal. I'm in this room, or I'm in the house, I have a gun, you need to leave, and call 911, cops are on the way, whatever you want to say. I'm not going to tell you directly what to say, because the situation and what time it occurs, where it occurs, the situation it occurs in is really going to define how that goes. But the fact remains, if everyone in the house that you love and care for is in the same room with you, you don't really need to leave that room unless there's a mitigating circumstance that's going to drive you to leave that room, which we'll get to. Third category, I'm married, or maybe I'm a single parent. My kid is in a separate room. My children are in a separate room. Or someone else is in the house with me, but they're not in the same room with me. So let's say, there's a crash at the back door at 2:30 in the afternoon. You hear your wife scream in the kitchen. It's time to leave the room. Which begs the question, where is your firearm? Why do I ask? When I teach my home defense class, every now and then I get a student who's like, well, this is my plan. And the plan is usually focused on that bump in the night. Very rarely, not always, but very rarely do they even occur to them that, like, hey, this could go down at 10 in the morning. This could be a home invasion at 10 in the morning on a Saturday, 8:30 in the morning on a Saturday, 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday. It can happen when your plan is not applicable. If your plan is to grab the shotgun from underneath the bed, or the shotgun from the gun safe, or the shotgun from the quick rack, or the shotgun from under the mattress, see a theme here? The guns are all stored in the bedroom. Some people don't feel comfortable, or maybe they're unable to home carry, like you got kids. You don't want to leave guns laying around, and that's fine. But you can have the gun on your person, and then you're like, oh man, that's paranoid. Why would I carry a gun around in my house? For the unexpected situations where someone knocks on the door. You don't have to, but it is an option, and it's smarter than your plan being based on the fact that I'm going to be in this location when the situation occurs, because you might not be. Does your nighttime home defense plan apply to you being in the shower? If your answer is no, then you need a new plan. Now, this room I'm standing in is probably the best way to check your plan. Shoot house. Not everybody has access to this. So what can you do to test your plan, test your techniques, if you don't have access to something like this? Being able to shoot is important. Being able to shoot for home defense is incredibly important just because of the environment. You're going to be using a firearm in closed spaces, potentially with loved ones around. Right now, do you know the furthest shot you might have to take in your house? What's the distance from your bedroom to your kitchen door? Or from your living room to your bathroom? Or from the first floor to the second floor balcony? Have you considered those distances, and have you trained with your chosen home defense weapon to shoot accurately with a great degree of precision at those distances? Use a rifle for home defense. Are you going to have to take a shot from the bedroom into another room? Let's say, maybe the furthest you'd have to shoot is like 10 meters, 15 meters. Is the weapon capable of delivering precision accuracy? That's one. And two, are you capable of understanding the difference between the point of aim and the point of impact at that distance? Depending on your zero distance, it could be considerable. So we're talking about a rifle. Now let's talk about a handgun. How precise can you be at 15 meters with a handgun versus a rifle? Or if the handgun's your chosen weapon, we'll get to that. Is that going to be beneficial? Is that going to work? The bump in the night allows us to confront that intruder without immediate worry to our family member, because it's my family members are behind me and I'm right there and there's the bad guy. But that's probably not the situation that's going to develop, and you can't count on that being the way it goes down. And again, 100 million possible variables that can go into this, but just as an example, think about this. You're in the kitchen, your wife or one of your children is in one of the hallways, and someone comes in through a rear bedroom, or comes up from the basement or down from the second story. Now it's you, loved one, bad guy. Does that affect your plan? Did you consider that being an option? I don't want to throw boogeymen out there and make you think, well, I need a plan for everything. Because like I said, you can't plan for everything. But what you can do is plan on how you're going to react to anything. And this is why training is so important. Self-defense outside of the home is hugely important, but self-defense inside the home is just as important. And then have you factored in floor plan and how you're going to confront your own floor plan? Again, if I'm single, I have to leave the room, right? That doesn't only apply to the bedroom. It applies to the kitchen, it applies to the bathroom, it applies to every single room in the house. But if I have to leave the room to go and secure my loved ones, I need to have a plan to address that. And that's where these tactical things come in, such as the room I'm in. I'm in a shoot house. You think shoot house, you think SWAT team, military, things like that. But no, it's a geographical location that includes geometry and angles in which anyone should have access to training, or you can build yourself in your own home using a system like Airsoft. But the point being, you need to know how to work your own floor plan. And being able to search your own floor plan is monumentally important, because you know it, you're aware of it, you're intimate with it, and hopefully the intruder isn't. No tactics, I should say, nothing tactical, nothing magic, nothing dynamic. It's simply using math to your advantage. knowing how to pry a door, knowing how to work a hallway, knowing how to search a room, knowing the best method to enter a room, knowing how to fight from real estate you own. All these things matter in home defense because there's things that we really need to know how to do. Can we get by without knowing how to do them? Yeah, because a lot of things are pretty much common sense, and I'll definitely try to show you that in a following video. But the more practice we have, the more proficient we're going to be, which means the more confident which means we're going to be, which means the more effective we're going to be. And we want to be as effective as possible. Everything is driven by the situation. The tactics have to apply to the situation. And of course, lastly, what's the police response time look like in your location? Do you know the cops that work in your zone? As anti-police as some pro-gun people are, if you have a violent encounter in your home, the cops are going to have to come. You're going to have to deal with that. Have you reached out to law enforcement in your area just to get an idea of the kind of officers you have? Maybe ask them for advice based on their experience on how to deal with situations. Do you know if there's been any recent burglaries? These are just more and more reasons why we should definitely talk more on the law enforcement citizen side. EMS response times, you have an idea how that's going to go. What is your plan for getting everybody out of the house? And what is also your plan for letting everyone know that something is happening? If, like I said, to use the example again, it's 2 p.m. and someone's trying to kick in the front door, I cannot depend on the fact that every other person in my house realizes that's happening. So how am I going to let them know in the least amount of words possible that something bad is happening and we need to act accordingly? Do you have a code word? I know the code word sounds stupid. I do. I like avalanche. Avalanche is really simple. If I lived in Colorado, I probably wouldn't use it. If I lived in Florida, it's not going to come up in regular conversation, so it's a word I can use with emphasis that people are going to know, okay, now I need to listen up for what's following. In a restaurant setting, it's very easy to tell the girlfriend avalanche, she knows something's going down and she needs to listen up because because I'm seeing something she doesn't. If she says avalanche, I know she says she sees something and I need to listen up. I can't be the only person who's able to use the word, obviously. Everybody needs to be on the same page. Practice the home defense plan just like you would a fire drill. I remember when I was in elementary school, fire drills were the big thing. We were supposed to go home and get our parents involved and have a safe place that we could meet up at and all these other things. I don't know if they still do that. Home defense needs to kind of work the same way. If you can get out of the house, get out of the house. But if you have to stay in the house, barricade in place with all the family members in the same room. Make a very defensible position. So how would the code word work? If you're going to come up with a code word, maybe you're going to go with banana or something like that, which actually isn't a bad one. You could simply say the code word. I'm not going to scream banana because that just sounds ridiculous, but hell with it. Banana back room, banana basement, banana attic. Banana is a really silly word, but it's so silly that it's actually going to get people's attention, which is cool. Code word, where we need to meet. Pretty straightforward, right? Or you can say banana, get out of the house. Why would you say it that way? Well, maybe I know that the bad guy is between me and my loved one, or he's on the other side. Or in some kind of linear situation, if my loved ones move to me, they're going to run into the bad guy. Make sense? So if it's me, bad guy, kids are in the back room playing, do I want them to come to me? No, because they're going to complicate the situation. 2, they're running right into the threat. It's going to happen quick, but it can be done just as effectively and just as fast as a fire drill. If you have small children, do they know how to get out a window? Are they able to get out of a window? Do you have a second-story escape plan if you live in a 2-story, 3-story, however many stories house? These are all things that factor in the home defense plan. Now, go back to the beginning of this video and think about your home defense plan. Are you modifying it in any way? If you're not, is it because your plan was awesome? Because if it was, great. If you're not modifying it because of pride or because you're stubborn, then, well, you're just wrong. And that's just bad. If you did modify it, another mental exercise, try to remember your original plan in a positive way. If you can't, and that means you've advanced in your thinking about a technical situation to a point that you're going to be more positive in your application of self-defense measures, self-defense techniques, and pre-planning. And finally, but no less important, contact with emergency services. I know I talked about it a little bit already, but the actual 911 call that has to go out. Be able to speak to the dispatcher in a calm way. Now, dispatchers are generally going to ask you where your emergency is first, and then they're going to go through everything like that. And if you're calling from a cell phone, you may get handed off to a totally different dispatch. The last time I used 911, I was right on that county line. So I went to, here in Atlanta, I went to DeKalb County dispatch when I was actually just over the line in Fulton County. So she had to hand me off to a total different dispatch center, which ate up valuable time. So be aware if that situation is going to develop. There's a non-emergency number you can call to your county's dispatch center to find out if you're going to be in that line or not, and there's steps you can take to prevent that from happening in the future. Just being prepared, common sense. Everybody loves the idea that 911's there. Everybody knows the phone number, but so many people don't know how to actually use it. The dispatcher is going to do a great job, hopefully. They usually are. Dispatchers are some awesome people. They're going to be able to walk you through the situation, but they're going to move in a very methodical method, and they're going to do it the same way no matter how much emphasis you apply to the situation. So when dealing with 911, just be prepared to give as many facts as possible, but the facts that are prompted for, instead of trying to just give them everything at once. Let them go through their script, follow the script. As soon as they answer the call and find out the nature of the emergency, they're going to get units on the way. Don't get wrapped up in situations that are contextual. If they ask you to describe the victim, you're the victim. Describe you, not the bad guy who's got smoke checked. Or describe the perpetrator. Don't try to remember facts. Give the facts that you remember, if that makes sense. Otherwise, you may put out a bad description, which isn't necessarily good. So, a lot of detail, a lot of things we went over. It's impossible for me to cover home defense in one video. It's impossible for me to cover all the aspects of home defense in 10 videos. But I'm going to do a couple, and this was the first one. I felt like this one would be a good place to start to give people a different mindset or help people think about things in a different way. Now again, if you already feel like you're proficient, have an objective conversation with yourself and think about, is my plan, did I address everything that he talked about? And if I don't address everything that he talked about in my plan, why not? My way is not the way, it's a way, it's a good way. But there are different ways to do things, different instructors. Maybe you took a home defense class, they're going to have different aspects. But the question you always have to ask yourself is, if I mentioned something that you hadn't thought about, why? Why didn't you think about that? Maybe you already have a different way of doing it. Maybe you don't. I'm Aaron Cowell, Sage Dynamics. Train accordingly.